I want to get fit. I want to be able to run a marathon. But all I do is eat junk food, drink all the time, don't sleep enough.
You do all these things, but you watch all the possible YouTube channels and podcast interviews about how to do a marathon.
As a dancer, we need to be 100 and 100. And together, we make this new 100%.
I think one of the greatest skills of a social dancer is their ability to adapt.
How can I be happy at the same time as making my partner happy?
And I think we all feel in the body when there's something off. In the end, is what do you do with that? Do you blame the other person?
Small, little actions compound into great results. If you want to become something in your dance or in your life, just think about it. Think about everything holistically. Are you really doing what it takes to achieve your goals? Or are you living in a delusion that you created for yourself? Well, let's find out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to ZoukNerds. In this episode, we are not gonna hold back. Guy and I want to share some of the ways that we have seen people sabotaging their own ways. But we don't know what we don't know, right? Well, let's get a reality check and discover if you're living a delusion or walking the walk. So, let's go. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Alisson Sandi, and let's welcome back our beautiful co-host, Guy Prada. Hello, Guy.
Hello, Alisson. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Very excited for one more episode.
Yes, and this is not just one more episode. It's actually our 50th episode for Season 5. Oh my God, guys. You've been with us for this 50th episodes of Season 5. And I was counting all of the episodes. We're close to 100 episodes all together with all of the other series. Maybe close or maybe past 100 episodes, but I'll let you know in the next episode that we're here with you guys. And for this one, we want to do things a little different. You know how we do it. Sometimes we do things that are more focused for the dancers, for the teachers, or for the community. But this one is going to be a little bit, could I call it a rant? Maybe not a rant. Maybe that's a strong word. Maybe a pet peeve. But we want to talk about the contradictions. Contradictions when people are learning to dance. They say they want one thing, but they're not working towards it. Let's put it very simply. I want to get fit. I want to be able to run a marathon. But all I do is eat junk food, drink all the time, don't sleep enough, and pretty much never really exercise other than maybe every now and then I go and I run for 5 minutes, but I'm not really getting ready for it.
And there's one more detail. You do all these things, but you watch all the possible YouTube channels and podcast interviews about how to do a marathon. You theoretically, you know, and you keep getting better at knowing more about it. But what you're doing with your body in practice, it's not the same.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're putting in the effort. Sure, you're putting some of the effort in the theory part of it. But what about putting the effort in the practical part of it? That is something that we see a lot from a teacher's perspective. So yes, maybe this is a bit of a rant episode from a teacher's perspective about students who talk the talk, but don't walk the walk. Or maybe they walk, but they don't run. Yeah. For example, let's talk about leaders and followers here. We had very recently, and Guy is going to talk more about this, leaders who want to become this comfortable, adaptable leader. Go to the classes and do all the classes and travel to congresses and they do retreats and all of the things. But then when you see them in class, their actions are contradicting. When you see them in the social, their actions are contradicting. Same thing for the followers. Followers who want to become adaptable, want to become this, alien tier of followers that can do anything with anybody and feel completely comfortable, in balance and confident. But then in class or in social, those actions are not backing up those I want to. How many times we have students that come to our classes or even private lessons sometimes. Oh my God, they pay like a lot of money to come and say, I want to do this, I want to become that, I want to do this, I want to become that. And through that private lesson or through that group class, they're questioning in a way that they're not looking for more information. They're actually rejecting the information, rejecting the exercise. And then we're like, hello, do you really want this? Because it's not working. And going back to what we said before, trusting the process. Are you really trusting the process, or are you just saying that you want it? So how about that, Guy? What do you have to share with us?
Man, this is a thing for me. When I think about Brazilian Zouk, when I think about partner dancing in general, I think a lot about the experience of the social. You go to the social, the party, and that moment over there. And I think one of the greatest skills of a social dancer is their ability to adapt, their ability to modify how they do things and why they do things, depending on the person they are dancing with. And that's where I feel all these feels when it comes to this topic that we're talking about here today. Exactly for that reason, we hear so much from the students and from those who are on the floor that they want to become more comfortable, more adaptable. And in some cases, from leaders and followers that hear from those who are closer to them and those who are more open to receive feedback from, that they could adapt more here, that they could relax more there and do all these things and all of the stuff. And these dancers, they go and they do seek knowledge. They do seek, like you're saying, they come to the class, they come to the practical. How can I do this? How can I do that? And then in the practice of the social dance, they keep doing the thing that keeps them away from the adaptability that they themselves seek. And that's such a deep philosophical thing to me, question, wondering that I have, that at sometimes I ask the person, what is it that you see as adaptability? What is the thing that you see as this thing? And it's so interesting when you ask these questions who talk about the concept. Sometimes they struggle to respond. They struggle to find an answer of what that thing looks like. So I started doing this exercise in class. And I think I mentioned in one episode here where I asked the leaders to tell the followers, what do you think the follower wants from you as a leader? And then the followers will tell you what they actually want from you as a leader. And it was really interesting. Like we said, the leaders thought the followers wanted them to be more clear, more movements, more challenging, more interesting movements, a lot about the movements. And the followers' response was, I just wanted to hold me and spend some time tuning in with my body before we start the thing. And one of the leaders there, who is one of our leaders who are more like trying to do things with the followers, he was the one who was most confused. And that was a part that I actually enjoyed because I wanted specifically that some of the leaders would hear the response from their followers. And he was really confused. He was like looking down and looking up and looking to the sides. And then he said, oh, but this is very hard. And I said, what is hard? This that they are asking. And then we asked, why do you think it's hard to hold and tuning in? And he didn't know how to answer that question. But then his reaction was really interesting because I realized that there is something about the silence. And this silence that I mean is the absence of bigger movements. Now, the silence can mean not moving. Now you are just like standing. But the silence can mean subtle movements, weight transfers, a little bit of walk. It's almost like you are beginning the conversation. You are giving some time for the person to listen. And I think that moment there is the uncomfortable part for most people. Maybe either because they don't know what to do in that moment or how to do that movement, or feel very self-conscious about that part of the dance. The same way that we have people that feel very self-conscious when there is silence in a conversation. We have that expression in English, awkward silence, because the silence is defined as an awkward part of the conversation because we understand that the conversation needs to have sounds at all times. And when I do my communications trainings and courses, we learn so much about the power of silence, the power of pauses. And I think that's where our leaders and our followers have a hard time with. It's finding that pause to connect with their bodies, how they are feeling. And then something that we mentioned in our last episode, the matter of embodiment, to get out of the head and go into the body and see how the body is feeling with the other person. So I characterize the ability to adapt as the ability to find ease of motion together. So less bumping, less loss of balance, less of these miscommunications that happen because someone is going to someone else to find flow. And the flow is this absence of friction.
Yeah.
And noticing that when I think about this with a more forgiving mind, with a mind that is more open to see what is the issue that is happening with this human being right here in front of me. When it comes to adaptability, a lot of it, I think it comes from the fear of the silence or the uncomfort with the absence of something that they think is the thing of the dance, which is like moving around and doing stuff, you know?
Yeah.
There's so much more to talk about this, but I think this is the starting point for me when I think about adaptability. For leaders, more specifically, that I mentioned this example of the leaders in class. And there's also like the part of the followers too, of course.
Yes, I think it all boils down to how I like to explain connection, and not just connection like leverage, compression and that sort of thing, but connection and interaction between the two bodies. I like to think that as a dancer, we need to be 100 and 100. And together we make this new 100%. So I bring myself 100%, my follower brings themselves 100%, and together we make this new 100% of dancers. But in terms of how do we lead and follow, I think as a leader, I'm fluctuating between this spectrum of 0 to 100, but ideally I want to start with 50% leading, 50% following. So I am saying things and then listening to the response. Saying things and then listening to the response. And the dances that I feel the most joy with are the dances that the followers are doing the same thing. They're listening, they're responding. They're listening, they're responding. They are not just listening and not responding. They're actually leading their body. They're doing things. They're expressing themselves as a response to something that I said. So like a natural conversation. It's back and forth, instead of just leader saying in a lecture type of way, and the followers just listening and executing. For those type of leaders that want to become adaptable and those followers that want to become adaptable, I think that's something to start to think about. And yes, I'm not saying that I'm 50-50 all the time. Like I said, we are traveling through this spectrum. Sometimes I feel like the follower wants me to speak more and they want to speak very little. So if I feel good about that in that moment, in that dance, with that music, I'm happy to do that. But if not, I'm going to do what makes me feel happy in that connection. And hopefully that's going to be enough for the follow. We cannot please everybody all the time, but I want to make sure that I am happy in that dance. So I'm going to try to find that balance between like, how can I be happy at the same time as making my partner happy? The mistake that I did for so many years was that first part never existed. Only the second part. Only the part that was about the follower. As long as the follower is happy, I'm happy. This is not something that I want for my life. This is not something that I want for my dance. And thank God I've learned early enough in my life to actually change that, not just in my dance, but in my life. You know, we need to be full of happiness and full of energy ourselves to be able to exchange and give that to somebody. So for all of you who are in this path of probably becoming adaptable or any other path, think about the balance, not just the give it all. And also, I think the most important thing is to really be open to feedback, be open to understanding that whatever the other person is going through, is something that we need to be careful and be paying attention to. It's not all like, I want to do this. I want to lead something and the follower is not going. I want to lead something and the follower is not going. I want to lead something and the follower is not going. Guy mentioned this a couple of episodes ago. Maybe, Guy, bring that story back to us. I think that's better if you bring it back.
The lateral thing?
Yep.
Yeah. In class, that happened that I was watching them dancing and the leader, he was doing like a movement and then he ended in the other side of the track, on the side that is not the lateral side, where the traveling leg of the follower is opposite to them. And he tried lateral 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. As he was trying lateral for his 3rd time, I started walking towards him 4 times. And then when I got to him, he was still trying lateral. Then I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, stop, she's not going. And then he was like, oh, okay. Because it goes into this mode of, I need to execute the movement. I need to complete the movement. And the movement becomes a priority. Completion of the movement becomes a priority. And that's where I think we start to indirectly establish our priority, right? So if we are so focused on the movement, we are, without realizing, putting the movement as a priority. And when you put the movement as a priority, you tend not to modify or modulate the way that you do the movement based on the person that you are dancing with. You just go for the movement. It's like Alisson saying, is finding the balance between what is it that you were thinking about doing in the dance, in that moment of the song, and how is it that my partner is coming with me during that movement, and then going by that, making the mind more flexible. I think it's a matter of flexibility of the mind and awareness of the body for you to become this adaptable dancer that you want to become. Removing hard shoulds from the way that you understand the dance and the technique. It was something that picks a little bit from our previous episode about technique, right and wrong. If you have a right mind when it comes to movement and you're going to lead or follow, you're going to process it. Oh, she's following it wrong. Or they are leading it wrong. They are following it wrong. Because it's not being done with that technique that I learned. And then it becomes more of a rigid mindset in what comes to social dancing. I see social dancing, guys, as a big playground for, in this case, adults, because in our socials, we only have adults. We don't have children there playing around. So it's a playground for adults. We are playing with someone else to the sound of music, using a technique that we learned as our common language. We call this Brazilian Zouk, or we call this lambada, whatever dance form you practice. You are playing with someone. And that's the part that I think is important. When the rules of the game become more important than playing, then it tends to create like a limitation of how many people you can play with. We have common rules. Now we have this understanding. We want to stay on the rhythm. Yeah, we want to keep stepping to the timing. We understand the basic movements, the basic forms and shapes. After a certain level of complexity, we start to find more level variation. Up to a certain point, we can all stay sort of together, because somebody who is starting, they're learning that core family of movements. So up to that point, we can all stay. Past that point, we need to start gauging. And the leader is going to gauge how far they can go in terms of complexity of movement with the follower. And I think the follower will gauge how the leader is leading them into certain things and what they can actually lead on them. Because sometimes the leaders go wanting to lead stuff that they haven't properly learned yet. So they just do things, and the followers who are more aware can adapt to that situation and maybe do something else or do it differently. I remember several situations in my journey. I was dancing with a follower, of course, and remembering having such a hard time to do almost anything with that follower, because I think they were waiting for me to lead in a very specific way. And because I was not leading in that specific way, they would not go, And I was having this conversation with a friend here in DC that she was wanting more tension, like muscle engagement and more tension on the body to understand a movement or to go through a movement. And then I asked her, do you only understand when there is more tension and more engagement, or you still understand when there is less? And then she says, no, I understand when there is less. And then I asked, but in the social, would you go? Would you follow with this less, but still, you still understood. Would you still stay or go? What would you do? Because we were in a class situation. So in a class situation, she was not going. She was just staying, waiting for the full lead to happen. And then she says, in the social, it depends. But sometimes I don't go even in the social. And that's the thing that I keep thinking, how much that impacts your experience if you only follow or lead when you give or receive a very specific input. And that's my wondering in general, like how much are you connecting the joy of your experience to a way of doing things or to the things that you do? Can you connect the joy of the experience with being with someone and then finding like, what is this core amount of things that we can do together and have a good time? That has been always my wondering. And to finish my part here, we talked about the guy who was leading lateral, né? And there is this other situation as well in which a leader came to me to ask about adaptability, something that they have been thinking about for a long time, have heard from their followers, doesn't know exactly what to do. And then we had this long conversation. I saw him having a long conversation with another teacher. Then later on, I watched this person dance. And basically what happened is that they were going through the motions, just doing stuff. And then I could see that the follower was having a hard time to keep up with them. They were just like, almost like running around that person, that leader. And then my wondering is that, are they seeing it? Are they perceiving it? And my conclusion is, I don't think they are perceiving. I don't think they are noticing that the follower dancing with them is not going, is not with them. And that's a conversation that I want to have with this person after we finish everything, after we finish all the work, so I can tell what I saw, because I said, I'm going to observe, I'm going to watch, and I'll let you know later. And I'll let them know later. But there was something that I got really fascinated by, is the example that we were talking about, the marathon first. Knows what to do, heard what needs to be done, watched all the podcasts, talked to all the professionals, got all the consulting done. Yeah. In theory, it understands, but I don't think it is perceiving on the body that is not happy. I don't think it is perceiving that ease of motion that I was talking about didn't arrive yet. And that, in the end, for me, is the greatest measures, is the greatest way to know. Is noticing your body, which comes back to the matter of embodiment once again.
And I remember this very, very shocking reality for me when I was in Brazil once with a previous dance partner called Audrey that I used to dance with between 2016 and 2010. And we went to São Paulo and to Rio. So imagine us in São Paulo and Rio at the socials, having fun, dancing with everybody. And both of us had completely different experiences in different places. So I initially trained mostly in Rio style of Brazilian Zouk. What is Rio style? Well, it's the style that people were dancing in Rio at that time. I wasn't very trained or experienced with the way that people were dancing in São Paulo. So when I went to Rio, I felt very comfortable. I felt like I was able to connect and to dance with a lot of people. But my dance partner felt like, oh my God, the leaders here are crazy. I don't know what to do. I don't know what they're doing. They're just going. And then we went to São Paulo. And she was like, oh my God, I love the leaders in São Paulo. Oh my God, I love the leaders in São Paulo. And I was having the hardest time dancing with the followers in São Paulo back then, okay, in 10 plus years ago. We're talking about, a long time ago. Now I think everything is very different. But the reason why she was having such an easier time to dance in São Paulo was because the leaders were way more adaptable. Because the leaders, they were salsa dancers, they were lambada dancers, they were zouk dancers, they were everything dancers. And in Sao Paulo, the followers were way more expressive. They were dancing a lot in their own body. Whereas in Rio, they were more on the follower receiving side. In Sao Paulo, they were on the follower expressive side. So for her, she was having more time for herself as a follower. But for me, I was having all of this expression of musicality or movement that I was not used to in the followers that I'm used to dancing. So I'm leading something and the follower does something and I'm like, oh, am I supposed to wait? Am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do here? So such a contradicting way of expressing or experiencing the same thing from different roles in different cities. It's just like, for me, incredible. It's more of a story that I wanted to share in relation to what you're saying, Ki. Not necessarily a point, but there's no right or wrong there. It's just, it is what it is. It's what I was used to. So then I had to take that as notes of my learning and think, okay, I need to be able to dance with followers who do that. So then I had to go back to training and think, okay, I'm not at the level that I thought I was with every follow. I just found this challenge. So now this challenge is something to work towards. Not just, well, that's wrong, I don't like it. You know, we always talk here at ZoukNerds to stay curious, to be a student, forever student, beginner mindset forever. So then we can learn more and we can achieve the things that we want to achieve. Like I always want to be the most comfortable and adaptable to whoever I dance with, whether I'm dancing as a follower or dancing as a leader. Well, except the moments where the music takes over my body. And if I'm dancing with somebody that I feel comfortable enough, I will say, I'm sorry, I love this song. And I think I'm going to lose my cool. I'm going to lose my mind. Are you okay with that? They're like, come on, let's go. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I lose myself. And then I come back. The song ends and I'm like, okay, sorry, I'm back. Let's go.
Yeah, it's one of those moments that you are possessed. And then when you are possessed, everything is game.
Yes. Oh, I have seen Guy possessed. Last time I saw Guy possessed was in Taiwan Zouk Festival earlier this year.
I was possessed, guys.
Bro.
Luckily, I was dancing with people that I know, that I trust, because we went crazy.
Yes.
It was really good. It was actually the last time I felt like in a state of flow, dancing to kind of crazy stuff, It was super, super amazing. And this thing that you mentioned, Alisson, of going to São Paulo and dancing with people there, like all these years ago, something that I experienced like a couple of years ago, and a wake-up call in a way that was similar to you. I have to train this thing here. I have to train dancing using this body, using this way. Because what happened to us, and I think is the point that we were making before, is we noticed the friction. We felt in our bodies, something is off. What is it that is off? And then the curiosity took us to go back to the body and train the body so we can reach ease of motion with that way of moving, with that way of dancing. And I think that's it in the end of the day. If you are having a hard time adapting to a certain person or even adapt to a whole group of dancers from a different place, it's an invitation, I think, for us to go back and train your body to be able to communicate in that way and reduce the friction. It might be the case that you will realize, man, this is really not for me. I really don't like dancing this way. It's not my jam. Amazing. That works as well. That happened to me many, many years ago. And I think I mentioned another episode, again, almost 100 episodes. And so stuff has been mentioned before and before, time and time again. But this moment that I was so much in the Jaime Rocha studio and I went outside for the first time, danced with people like, oh my God, I couldn't dance to the speed of the song that they were playing, the other socials. There was a lot of stuff I couldn't do comfortably. It felt so strange because the friction was too high. The friction in the speed of the song, the friction in the way that we use the technique. And I'm not talking about Zouk only, I'm talking about all the other Brazilian partner dances. including forró, which is the easiest of them all. I remember I learned forró properly in the studio, and then I started going to forró socials, forró parties in Rio, in Lapa. Couldn't dance, could not dance. It was extremely uncomfortable. I don't know what I was doing. And then I went back to the studio. I was like, guys, what the hell? I couldn't dance at all. And then I learned that we were learning more forró in shot, which is slow version of forró. And then in forró parties, shot is played like 5% of the time. So all the other time is rastapé, is baião, which are variations of forró music who are faster. I didn't have the vocabulary, I didn't have the movements. The embrace was not the same. It was everything was different. But again, felt in the body. And I think we all feel in the body when there's something off. In the end is, what do you do with that? Do you blame the other person? Oh, they're not able to do this thing the right way or the way that I do? Or do you like, okay, how can I learn that? And then go dance with them again and see what happens. And I think that's what happens to us in São Paulo. I was talking about that in the course that I did this weekend, exactly about this example of going to São Paulo and realized there was a little difference between grounding step and traveling step, between the chick and the tum from people in São Paulo and from me. For me, I would transition faster through the traveling step. And then in São Paulo, I noticed that they were staying a little longer on the ground step. Nothing major, but I felt this little glitch that would pile up over time. They would just like roll over time. And then these small discomforts that I felt, I didn't know exactly what it was. And then I realized, oh, there's a difference in the weight transfer. So I want to learn how to do that. So, I think we can give so many more examples of things that we have faced about this matter of adaptability. In the end, though, invitation to go back to a room with somebody and let's train. Let's see how we can adapt my technique, the way that I do things, to this way of doing things, so I can talk and play with more people,
Yeah, and what if you don't know what you don't know?
Yeah.
What if you're not aware of all of those things that are happening in your dance? Well, here's another invitation. Ask people. Ask your friends. Ask people that you dance with somewhere else. Maybe ask them when you go to a weekend or when you go to a congress, after a dance, ask them, hey, can I ask you a question? Would you mind sharing something that you liked about my dancing? You don't necessarily have to ask somebody and make them uncomfortable or possibly uncomfortable and ask them, hey, can you tell me something that you dislike about my dancing? No, I mean, like, maybe if you have a longer conversation, you can get to that point, but maybe you can ask them, hey, can you tell me something that you liked about my dancing with you? And they might say, oh, I love your musicality. That was really nice. I enjoyed it a lot. You play with the music so much. Great, great, great. And then if they ask you back, you can share, can start that conversation. And then perhaps you can get to the point and say, look, I really want to become a very comfortable dancer. I really want to become a very expressive dancer. I want to become ... whatever you want to become. Would you mind maybe sharing something that you think I could do better to get to that point? Bro, for me, one thing that is true is that everyone's opinion counts. Everyone's opinion. Small example here. When I was doing a lot of choreographies and competition and performing everywhere, I used to always have a recording of my choreography and send to people that are not dancers, or send to people that are not Zoukers or Brazilian dancers. I just send to them and say, hey, this is like a little preview of my next choreography. I would love to know what you think about it. And the person from salsa would say something, the person from tango would say something, my family would say something completely different. All of the opinions were completely contradicting at times, but they were valuable opinions because they were the truth for those people. Oh, I thought your choreography was too fast. Oh, I thought your choreography was too slow. Same choreography, two different people saying completely different things. And I've shared before that I had problems with understanding how to connect because some followers would tell me I was too light. The other ones would tell me that I was too firm. Others would tell me that I was too precise. Others would tell me that because I was too precise, it wasn't fun for them because they felt like they couldn't do anything other than follow me. And the list goes on. I think in the end of the day, with this episode and this conversation, what we're trying to achieve is a way that we can think about achieving and creating a path towards the goals that we want by the actions that we're taking on each day and every time we do something about it. If you want to run a marathon, if you want to get fit, okay, maybe look at your fridge. Just open your fridge and look at it. Think about it. Would a marathoner, somebody fit like the person that I want to become, have all of those things in the fridge? Think about it. If you don't know, you've got AI nowadays. Take photos of it and just ask the AI, are those things good for me if I want to become fit and run a marathon? Use something about it. And then think about your sleep schedule. Think about how many steps you do a day, how many times you go for a run every week, how many times you take the elevator instead of the stairs, how many times you take the escalator instead of the stairs. Small, little actions, they compound into great results. So if you want to become something in your dance or in your life, just think about it. Think about everything holistically, not just pay the money, attend workshops, and then go to the social and do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to work.
And there's one more thing that we didn't mention that might be as important or as powerful is wonder how much you justify what you do when what you do is presented to you.
Yeah.
Just like consider that. Something is like, oh, I noticed you doing this. But I do this because of this or this or this or this or this or this. So the justification is okay. There's no problem with that. The thing is when the justification represents a block for you not to incorporate or a resistance to incorporate something. Recently here, we had a conversation with some of our people and we specifically asked justify later or justify internally or afterwards or don't at all, because we were having an issue like that. So wondering why you justify, if you justify what you do the way you do, because over time we noticed that this is also a very powerful force, very powerful limiting force that prevents you from getting to what you want to get to. In this case, we're talking about adaptability, becoming a mold, like a more moldable dancer for different situations and different partners and different songs and different stuffs. So just like wondering that, how much you are justifying what you do every time something is presented to you.
Exactly. And with that, I think this is a great summary. And hopefully our pet peeve in our rant of an episode was nothing too bad. And you guys understand where we're coming from. So once again, thank you for being here. Please don't forget to continue supporting us by following, sharing, liking, and doing all the things in the social platforms to help us create more and more and more. And we're going to keep doing that for you. And if you have any other questions, comments, suggestions for new episodes, our inboxes are open, especially for anybody who wants more about anything of the episodes that you've listened to. Please let us know and we will be approaching them. We'll come back here and talk about it. And for now, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for being here. Beijos, beijos, abraços, and ciao, everybody.
Bye, everyone.